here we are again at Braidman Studio. This is the second stage of this layout painting, and the idea, what we're doing is working with the surface of the painting rather than the drawing of the painting. So we're trying to make the surface as exciting and the application as exciting as the images that we're working with. So a traditional way to paint is to start with a gray, push in your darks, and pull out your lights and be done. So what we've got is really our gray and a sketch for where our darks will go and our lights will go. It's a question of whether you want your lights to be on the surface or be down underneath, and what we've done is we've identified the lights as being below and the darks as being on top just by the way we've started the painting. I'm going to flip that, but it doesn't really matter. You can play with it any way you want. What we're doing is playing with the order of application so that the person who looks at the piece isn't sure how it was done. And if you can keep alternating back and forth by working with putting lights on top and darks on top, you're confusing the observer's eye and it makes the piece look more, I call it the negligee effect. Everything's a little prettier if it's hidden. So we aren't sure how it was done. And if we can figure out a way to disguise that, then it makes the painting better. So the first thing I'm going to do is play. And I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I have taken a second to mix up a variety of darks. So chances are that means I'm going to start with my darks. That's my guess. So the first thing I'll do is figure out a dark that holds this thing together, and I've mixed up some cool darks and some warm darks. And my first dark, I want to pick it to find the back of the vase. And then I'll put another dark so we're confused the eye a little bit to find a front of the vase. It's a green, but it doesn't matter, it'll be a dark eventually. So I'm doing two things. I'm already confusing the eye. We're letting the dark find the back of the opening of the vase, which was going to be here. And we're also finding the dark to find the shadowed side of the vase on this side. So I'm going inside and outside the vase right away at the beginning. At the same time I'm doing that, I've got some wax mixed in with my white, and I'll be able to start to pull out some of the lights as I'm seeing on the vase too. So now I'm putting the light in front, where in here the light's behind. So it's already interesting. So we've got the light behind, the gray in front, and now the light on top again. So we're beginning to play with the observer's eye. Even at this early stage, we're not making anything predictable. And you notice that you look cool if you hold more stuff in your hand. So I try to hold as much as I can, because the Lord knows I need all the help. So I'm going to make sure I don't have a green for this dark, and I'm going to start to draw a little bit more using paint. So in this case, I'm going to just find the center of where that vase is going to be and start to pull some and this is the Buddha belly of that vase. I'm going to round the vase and leave the middle gray. This will have some light, and I'll begin to figure out some shaping on this side, but I'm not sure yet what's going to happen. But I am going to start to go back with some of these greens and start to shape the blossoms with an arbitrary dark. They may be leaves, they just may be shadows between the leaves. I don't know what they are yet. It's an arbitrary shape that's going to be a dark that helps me find the volume of the blossoms. That's its only job. And the dark also holds and identifies the top of the vase, so I will pull it right down to that lip, right in the middle. So I'm starting to identify some blossoms and some petals, some flowers, by finding those darks. So I've identified 1, 2, something little here. I have no idea what that's doing in the middle of this thing. And then a bigger one here, and I don't know which is in front, this or this. So we'll make this in front, and that's where I use this tool. I'll come back and draw and decide. And actually I have another one, like a shovel, that should be able to get, no, that doesn't work either. So I go back to my trusty dripper and get this wet so I can move the paint. And they call it a paint shaper, and I'd call it a rubber tip tool, but now I see why they're calling it a shaper. So I can come back and reshape that once it's wet, I can pull that paint around and pull this blossom in front of that blossom. So I'm just doing enough to that. Now this looks very squared and awkward, but I'm going to leave it because it's better to have some straight edge reference. Can you see that without glare? Than it is to have an imperfect rounded reference. So I'm going to look for that straight edge reference, and I'm going to start to figure out that these are going to be leaves. So to that end, I've got different greens mixed up. One of them will be a lighter green, to indicate like cool sunlight, and one will be a warmer green the other way around to indicate some sort of light. And I want to have some variety, so it's going to get darker as it comes to the center and may even join. And I'm not trying to draw with the paint strokes, I'm just trying to place color so that our brain will make sense of what's happening. Now I'm drawing with the paint strokes, so you see I lie all the time. Again, there's another petal here, I'm not sure what's going to happen, another leaf, another green, and I'm looking to make this side of the canvas excitable, and it's not working yet, so I'm going to pull something else back behind here to help engage that part of the canvas. So now everything's pretty well engaged. This is a little compressed up against the top, so I may leave that out and put something smaller in behind that. And then I'm going to look for, at this point I'll look for the, take my dark again and find the bottom of the vase and the Buddha belly of the vase. So in order to get that Buddha belly, there's a dark underneath the prominence. So I'll put that dark underneath there and soften it up. There we go. So now I'll stop. And you can see what's happened. I've taken the dark and structured the shape. And that's all I did. Yes, ma'am.
Have you already picked out your palette?
I have decided I'm going to work off these grays, and the grays are kind of cool gray, so I'm staying a darker version of the palette now. As I get to the flowers, I'm going to warm that up, and I may play with the background. But right now, one of the best ways to guarantee success is to work with less color and more value. So right now I'm really working with value. There's color to the shapes, but it's secondary to the value. So I put a purple or a blue or a green. The greens are tending to be warm and the shadows are tending to be cool, but right now they're all dark. So I'm working more with value than with palette, and that's because it's safer. As soon as you work with color, you're elevating your chances of failure. I can do great until I'm married. Then when I get married, chances of failure are higher. And then as I get, depending on, every day life gets more and more difficult. It should get easier, but I'm a man, so I screw up at every turn. And so you just want to make sure that you're postponing that inevitable screw up for as long as possible. Yeah, there are no other options, that's right. Now, what I may do at this point is I may start to structure some of this and see what's happening and this is, come on up close so you can see as I pull this surface off. I'm still drawing, but I'm beginning to take a value and making it a color. Do you see what happened with that single stroke? Now it's a value, now it's a color. And so as I begin to decide, well, that's a green, I've got a violet working here, I'm playing with the idea of what palette I'm going to use, but I haven't decided yet. Are these going to be a hydrangea or a peony? What else is big and round? A rose? You've got better roses than I do. Sunflower. Well, they're round, but they'd have like a center mass. Yeah, so right now they're either they're a light color, so I'm going to leave them light. And so it's a question of if it's a peony, they'll tend to be a little more have some red in them, and if they're a hydrangea, they can be just about a bluish or gray or something like that. So the gray might work better with the background, the red might work better with the background, so I don't even know what the flowers are yet. Because it's really I'm not a florist. I'm a painter. And so I'm just looking for an excuse to put paint down. So that's what I'm doing, and let's see if you can't get this far with your surface at this point. The one thing I want you to notice is how low on the canvas that comes. I still have room. It's not sitting on the bottom edge. This is a question of proximity. So if you get too close to the frame, we need too much detail. If you get too far from the frame, well, we don't have enough detail. So I'm looking for a way to get it just far enough away so I can drip or make this bottom interesting without having to do too much more to it.